you don't have the ability to lock in your cost of living, so your life will be uncertain.
I think on top of it too, not only are you not locking in your cost of living, but the spillover effect is you might not even be locking in your location. When you own, maybe you're paying 10% interest rate. When you rent, you're paying 100% interest.
All right, Anthony Misplan, we're talking rent versus buy. Yeah, so what are some of the other things that make sense as a reason to buy versus rent? What else would you highlight? Even if interest rates are at, let's just throw out a crazy number and say 10%, which isn't even that crazy. Our parents' generation talks about that in the 80s all the time, but let's just say interest rates are high. Why would someone buy in that type?
Well, I think at the end of the day, the most important thing that you can realize is what is your cost of living and how can I lock that in, as we discussed. The other situation is when you own, maybe you're paying 10% interest rate. When you rent, you're paying 100% interest.
Say that one more time.
So even at the craziest rate possible of 10% that we probably won't see anytime soon, as we're in the sixes right now with a projection to continue to drop, you're at 100% interest in somebody else's pocket. What that also then does for you is if you purchase the home, you're not taking advantage of an annual projection of a 4% return year over year on your investment. You're not able to open up equity from the home in a home equity, HELOC type situation. If you wanted to pay off credit card debt, you wanted to, do some upgrades to the home. So you have flexibility. And I think it leads into another huge pillar that we take very seriously here at the Delia Group, which is educating people on their ability to build wealth through real estate acquisition.
Yeah, I'd agree with everything you said, and I would just add, what a lot of people don't realize or really factor in when they take out a mortgage is what you're doing is essentially you're locking in a payment, but over time, because of the way the government will publicly say they always want to be around 2% inflation, which is a different way of saying we tax all assets at 2% every year, right? Because it's essentially making all of your hard assets worth 2% less, right? So when your payment's locked in, right, what ends up happening is every year, the amount that you're paying down loses 2% value, right? So if you think about it over time, because the dollars you're paying with are worth 2% less every year. And then what happens is roughly every 20 to 30 years, a big inflation event like we're going through right now, you'll get double-digit inflation for a year or two, right? Which then means that same dollar you paid with is now only worth 90 cents a year from now. So it's debt destruction that also is a reason that you want to lock in your payment, because the amount that payment is worth so much less over that 30 years. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah.
And I think also locking in that payment today provides you a situation where you can only decrease that monthly budget and payment, that mortgage bill, if you decide to refinance in the future, where those that may choose to re-sign that lease another year or two and then want to enter the market in 2025 or 2026, maybe seeing a whole different ballgame of what it might take to purchase a home and where they might even be able to live.
Yeah, so there's a million reasons as to why to buy, and there's very few as to why not to.
Correct.
Right. Just one final thing is you'll hear people say, well, I'm waiting for the market to crash. And it's like, or I'm afraid the market's going to crash, right? You'll hear it kind of on both sides of that coin. And my pushback and challenge to that is if you're buying a house you plan to stay in, it doesn't matter what the market is, right? Because you plan to live there, and this is a house for where you want to build whatever your goals are, whether that's family or just yourself or the location because you like it. It doesn't matter what the values do. If anything, you could argue you want values to drop. Maybe not want, but you're okay with values to drop because that means you're going to pay less in taxes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So taxes go down, right? So your payment actually becomes cheaper if the house becomes cheaper. And you only realize that loss upon sale. But if you don't have to sell, it doesn't matter. Right? And so it's always about your time horizon. If you plan to hold it for a long period of time, there's no question over time real estate has to go up because of the way our financial system is set up. Right? So if you have any questions or you want to talk more about why buying versus renting makes sense, go ahead and reach out. Love to attach you to a great realtor like Anthony. He's a total professional. And let's chat more. Appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.